So I want to welcome everybody tonight to our SALT Talks. Can't believe we're at the last one for January. I mean, really. Um, for those who don't know who I am, my name is Patty Schramm. I'm the Parent Resource Coordinator for the SALT Talks. We have been running in October. We started running a series for independent living, and we've tried to touch on many areas of independent living. And we continued it into January. And this is our the last session on well, everything's independent living. A lot of stuff is heading towards that, but this is last the last session as we are really taking a hard look at independent living and what that looks like. So we covered many topics throughout this, anything from life skills to hearing about independent living from an individual, Allison Boot. We looked at using tools, what tools were available out there, charting the life course, transportation. And then this month we had talked about not only the life skills, support groups. And then last week we were talking about relationships, dating, um, and, that topic, the sensitive topic. So then tonight we're finishing up, we're looking at online friendships, cyber safety, that is such an area that it was there before, but when COVID came along, it became even more enhanced. And I've heard a lot of parents talk about just cyber safety in general and their child being online so much. And, how do they know that they're safe and what they can do? So that's what we're focusing on tonight. For our presentation and for discussions. Feel free to ask any questions. Put them in the chat box as we go. We are recording tonight's session. So for your privacy, if you want to, if you have yourself muted and if you want to turn off your video, that's fine. So I'm going to turn it over to our speakers tonight. We have Kathy Kleiser and Cindy. I'm sorry if I say your last name wrong, Cindy, but
Shivadecker. Yep.
Shivadecker. Yeah, both from Greene County, and they've been working on a lot of areas of between relationships and cyber safety. So I'll let them go ahead and take over the presentation, and they can tell you a little bit more.
Hey, hello, welcome everybody. Cindy and I are two of a team of, we have a team of 5 of us. I always lose count. Everybody puts me together that have gone through the Elevatus training, which is the training for sexuality and healthy relationships for individuals with developmental disabilities. And we have Cindy and I are both in the transition services division of the Greene County Board, but we also have a parent advocate, and we also have an advocate herself that are part of that team. If you weren't here last week, along with our head of training, our coordinator is also part of our group. But we told Patty we would do the friendships and online safety tonight, but we want to make this is really I think we'll go through and talk about some of the things to be aware of, and basically it's education, because the internet isn't going to go anywhere. It's there. There's a lot of scary things about the internet, but really the internet is really opened up it's a great tool, especially for the individuals with disabilities, because a lot of times it's hard to find friends, and especially in that if you have a child that's in the spectrum, they find that a lot of individuals in the spectrum find this a very safe place to be able to find friends. But in addition to all of that, that it's a great way to socialize. There's a lot of things that we have to be aware of also, and there are dangers to it. And I think that, some people say, well, then I just won't have them go online. But is that really the answer? Because trust me, they're getting online somewhere. If it's eventually they're going to go there. So it's kind of like with relationships and talking about sexuality. Education is really the power that you can do with going through with online safety and friendships online. So Cindy's going to jump in back and forth. We have some videos, but also if you want to ask questions, please feel free to do that in the chat. And at the end, we have a lot of resources out there that can guide you, and also specific resources for individuals with disabilities that I can show you about a little bit. So we'll go on to this second. I want to go ahead and show you, there's a couple of videos here that we can go back and forth on. But this is one just on digital citizenship. And it's done by teens, not necessarily teens with disabilities, although I do have one that specifically has students with disabilities talking. But this digital citizenship video is actually probably something all of us should take a lesson from, because we have a responsibility when we're online, being careful about how we address people, whether it be an email, whether it be on Facebook, even if you're talking to somebody in customer service. And I don't want to just say kids, because I see adults doing this all the time. Even with the texting on the phone, it's like, okay, now I can say whatever I want. And it can be very, very hurtful. And it's a tool that can lead to some very serious cyberbullying is what we call it. But then once it's out there, there's nowhere to be able to talk about this. So I think it's very important for you to have an open conversation with your kids about the safeties of what they need to do. But we'll go ahead and I'll show you this one. I want to make sure that you can see it when I do it. I apologize. There's always commercials on these.
Hi, I'm Avery. Welcome to Kip Power Shorts. Today,
the
we're going to
video's
be
not
talking.
up.
Okay, we can't see it.
Yeah, did you click
Okay.
the boxes when you shared your screen?
Yeah, let me do the new share. Let me do this. I'll do this. Now, can you see him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Talking about an increasingly important subject, digital citizenship. Now, all of us are citizens of many things. We're citizens of communities, citizens of countries, and citizens of the world. And by using the internet, we're also digital citizens. Being a good digital citizen means interacting with other people online in ways that are respectful, safe, and legal. Now, good digital citizenship may sound like a no-brainer, but it can be surprisingly easy to break the safety rules online. Let's look at this from a couple of different perspectives. Some ways people can be unkind online includes posting and sharing mean, private, or embarrassing words, information, or photographs. A lot of times, these things are intended as jokes, but that doesn't mean that they're not hurtful. It's hard to gauge someone's intent online, and sometimes it's hard to tell what someone means with their words when you can't hear their tone of voice. Imagine that you were online and someone that you knew and trusted shared some information about you that you thought had been kept private. Imagine that one of your friends sent some hurtful words over text. If I were receiving these messages, I would probably feel scared, sad, and alone. One of the best things to do when someone you know and trust has done something hurtful to you online is to get help. You can get help from someone else you know, or you can talk to them directly and respectfully address what hurt your feelings and how to make it better. A really important thing to remember about digital citizenship is that a lot of times when people break the safety rules, they do it by accident. Most people in the world are good, and they're not actually trying to hurt anyone's feelings. People often accidentally break the safety rules because they're trying to make jokes and they don't understand that they won't be heard as jokes. If you're communicating with someone online and you think that what you're about to send could be interpreted in a hurtful way, one thing to do is to rephrase your message. But another way people break the safety rules is by saying things and sending things when they're very angry. Now, although these things may feel honest and true at the moment, they're often not things that you would say to someone's face, or that you would say if you were feeling calmer. Remember, your feelings belong to yourself. Someone may have done something that hurt your feelings, or made you angry, or made you feel afraid. It's okay to be upset, but retaliating, especially online, is not helpful. When you're emotionally triggered, it can be very tempting to write long, angry messages to whoever has upset you. This almost always makes your problem worse, not better. You can use your awareness to notice when people are being disrespectful online, either to yourself or to other people. You can practice noticing when you get upset and stopping yourself from jumping forward and making triggered actions that could be destructive. Instead, take a step back and think carefully about how to address the problem. If you really feel you need to get the words out, you can write them down in a notes app or a piece of paper and don't send them. Wait until you're calmer and then revisit those words. If there's still something that is appropriate to send over text, you can send them. If there's something that you realize doesn't reflect who you are or who you want to be, you can delete them without ever having anyone else know they exist. If there's something that still needs to be said, but that is very large, complicated, or full of very strong feelings, this is something that's better to be addressed in person. You can come up with your own strategies for how to manage your feelings and prevent yourself from sending angry messages. Sometimes you might witness someone else not being a good digital citizen. This gives you the opportunity to be a safety advocate. You can be a safety advocate in a couple of ways. If the person engaging in online bullying behavior is someone you know well, you can approach them and have a respectful conversation about why you think their behavior is not okay. If you don't feel like you're in a position where you can talk to the person about their behavior, another good strategy is to redirect and change the subject. People who have been bullied online often feel upset and alone. Approaching these people can be very helpful to them. You can send them a message or talk to them in person and say that you don't support bullying and ask what you can do to help. Remember, everyone needs support in different ways and manages their feelings and their challenges in different ways. Make sure to follow the other person's guidance when supporting them instead of assuming what they need. Sometimes people are bullied online by a massive number of people all around the world. You may not be able to reach out to the person being bullied in this case. They might be someone who lives very far away, who you've never talked to, or even a public figure. This doesn't mean that you're powerless. Although you can't stop it from happening everywhere, you can still choose not to engage in the bullying behavior yourself, and you can talk to your friends, family, and other people you know about why you don't think they should engage in the bullying behavior either. Just like in the real world, you can be a good digital citizen and fully engage with all of the great things the internet has to offer. Thank you for watching Kid Power Shorts. Remember, you can find...
Go ahead and stop that share. So I don't know if anybody has any comments or anything to add to that. Um, Cindy, I think it's an important thing, but if please, unmute yourself if you have questions. That is obviously that's made for teams, and I have shared those resources with you. It'll be at the end of this. It's a separate handout, and it's actually an education program that students go through. But it's a good conversation starter for you to be able to watch that with your child and have a talk about what that actually means. So, anybody else have anything to say?
Most people haven't thought about it. That's what Patty put in the chat. And most people don't. But in today's day and age, I mean, this is another way that we communicate with people. And especially with text and emails, it's hard sometimes to get the context correct. And with someone with a disability, and maybe they're not good with those social cues, the context can be even harder. So it is a good conversation starter to be able to talk to your student or your child about how they're approaching things or how they're writing things.
Okay, so I'll go on to the next thing, and we'll go back and forth, and I'll share some of these videos. But as we start talking about the different things that you can do with your phone, there's things that you need to talk to about with your kids, and if especially when they've got that phone and you just have to bring context. It's almost like Cindy said, bringing context to it so they know what it means. And especially with individuals that might have has developmental disabilities, some cognitive problems, so they don't understand exactly what private means. Here's some vocabulary I wanted to go over, and then I wanted to share this teen share video here in a minute. But when you're looking at self-disclosure, sharing private or personal thoughts and feelings with someone, and having somebody sit and think, is this what you would do if you were sitting in an airplane? Would you tell everybody that? If you were standing in line at a grocery store? So you almost have to make it where they understand what those private and personal thoughts are. You need to make that clear. And I recommend that you practice. I mean, say something that's a private or personal thought, and then say, should I share that? Is that something you want to disclose? And being careful not to use the self-disclosure, but explaining to them what that is. Another thing that's always, it's the sexting, and that's digital sharing of intimate images or videos with another person. And you always say, would I be okay with my grandmother seeing this post? But would you want your parent to see that? If you're going to send something and you wouldn't want your parents to see it, or then you don't do that. And you might have to get graphic about it and tell them specifically what intimate images or videos are with another person. And then that red flag feeling. When something happens on digital media that makes you feel uncomfortable, worried, sad, or anxious, then there's a problem. So you making sure that you have that open conversation. What are they doing on the internet? Do you know where they're going? Do you know who their friends are? But also letting them know when they get that feeling that something doesn't feel right, to come and talk to you, and just have some open conversations with them about where, what have they gone to, and just make be it approachable, or make sure that they have somebody that they know they can talk to that's a safe person as well. So, Cindy, do you want to add anything to any of those?
No. Mm-mm.
So I'm going to do this. This is another educational video, but I'm going to tell you it's about teens and sharing information back with this self-disclosure thing. And I'll share that. Hold on, I will have to. Oh, I don't think this is the one, Cindy, I wanted to share. But we will.
I'm not totally sure why a lot of times girls would want to send pictures like that or send that kind of text.
Let me stop reshare. I apologize. I'm going.
Why they would want to send that kind of picture or text?
Huh?
What was the question again? Why some girls would want to send those types of pictures or texts?
Yeah, she's getting ready to talk. It's yeah, she's that.
Oh, it's your
yeah.
video. I thought somebody was asking a question, Kathy.
Yeah, that's okay.
Why do I think people send nudes?
To showboat.
Sometimes people do it because they want to. Sometimes people don't want to do it and they feel like they've been pressured into it.
If their friends are doing it and their friends are like telling them they should do it, they can just send the picture.
Most guys don't think about the consequences that girls have.
Sometimes you send that picture because you want someone to tell you that you're beautiful. And that's another form of obligation.
Once you do anything online, it doesn't go away. So if you send a picture like that, it's not gonna go away.
So if you send to somebody a nude photo of you and then they don't keep it themselves, they make it like viral on social media.
I've seen people that did something they thought was justified in 8th grade and have it be affected their senior year of high school.
I think everybody at some point has been shown that like scare you out of sexting newspaper story where like some girl sent nudes to her boyfriend and then her ex-best friend got her hands on it and sent it to the whole school.
When a nude gets leaked, it's like your family gonna see it. Different people you don't even know is screenshotting you. The picture that you sent to this one person is never gonna go away. It's never, you know what I'm saying? You're just stuck with it.
I think it's sad and weird at the same time. They're feeling pressure from not one singular person that they can say no to. They would have to say no to all of society.
You spend a lot of time receiving all these images of what you should look like. And so sometimes I feel like it comes from a place of wanting to show off. Not your body necessarily, but the fact that you're comfortable or confident enough to do it.
For a guy, they might think it's cool or like, you know, you got her to send the picture, but for her, it's like, okay, my whole body is all over the internet now. Everybody's seeing me.
There definitely is a double standard when it comes to the situation of sexting between boys and girls. The guys are put on a pedestal in situations like this, but the girls are demonized for it.
Getting busted for sexting is more embarrassing for girls than guys.
It's so easy as a female to get your reputation thrown away because of one simple mistake that you didn't even think was a mistake.
No, it's not fair, but they hold girls to a different standard than guys. That's just the world we live in.
Sexting, it shouldn't be, it's an embarrassing topic, but it should not be embarrassing to talk about because people need to know what it is and what to do to not do it.
You know, when you are interested in someone or when you like someone or when you want someone to like you and you feel that sending pictures of yourself is the best way to do that, maybe it's time to reevaluate why you really care so much about this person.
When you're in middle school or when you're younger, you're gonna feel these emotions that you're not gonna feel in a year or 2 years.
That's what leads to people sending nudes is when someone else trusts another person, so they would send the picture to them. The trust breaks after their picture gets leaked.
I think people think that the relationships that they're in have a lot of trust and that the relationships are gonna last forever. But then when the relationship falls apart, which it usually does, is that those pictures get sent around to everyone. And I've heard countless stories of that happening.
I think the biggest consequence is like you lose some sort of trust with the person you were sending it to. And I think that that's really sad.
So I put that video on there because sexting is sexting. I mean, these are kids talking about it. These aren't adults, these are kids. And so obviously, it certainly didn't seem like something new to any of them. But so obviously it happened. So once again, it's got to be a discussion. And like, I loved it when the one kid said, it's embarrassing, yes, but we need to talk about it, so that people know what's appropriate and not appropriate. And also how it never goes away. And I feel like that's falling on deaf ears with kids now. If you put it on, it will always be there, but it will always be there. And for some of, and when you're having this discussion as well, letting them know that anything you put on the internet is there forever. You may hit the delete button and say, well, I got rid of it, but that doesn't mean it's not going to, it's still there. I mean, you leave a digital footprint. We all leave digital footprints every day we shop. Everything that we do, we have a digital footprint. So if you can get across to them that those are things that can actually come back to haunt them when they are looking for a job, because employers Google people, and if they're really good at it, they can find things. So but I thought it was interesting that with the boys especially, saying the double standard, that for guys it may be cooler than it is for girls, and that's worth a conversation as well, that it isn't good for anybody. So any comments, or anybody want to jump in on that one? Because if you're going to have an online relationship, and people are having online relationships, people that I've been in schools where I've talked to students who say they talk to somebody in another state and it's their boyfriend. And if that's the case, then you'd always have that conversation, and they may have a relationship, online relationships. But when it comes to sending pictures, you need to think about what you're sending. And I would draw a line with them. So. Yes, I agree, Patty.
Yeah, I do too.
No, we didn't. And it can really open up once again for that whole bullying piece as well. So does anybody have any questions or comments beyond that?
Thank goodness we didn't have the internet when I was that age. I'm sure a lot of us feel that way though.
Yeah. So let's go on. We talked about this, when you're going over with your students, and then once again, a lot of these come from this commonsense.org, and I do have the link at in the resources for this one. But to make sure that if your kids feel like they're being pressured, and if you always have this conversation with them, I do a check-in. If you know that they're on the internet, if they're gaming, because by the way, all those interactive games that they're doing, they're talking to people. And a lot of those online games, they're talking to people all over the United States and the world. But when they feel like they might be being harassed or picked on, it's never okay. It is never okay. And it doesn't matter, but and what should they do? So you pressure someone into doing something, once again, they're not comfortable with, like sexting. It's never okay to feel pressured to sex by being harassed or even blackmailed. Block the contact, tell a trusted adult, and call your local law enforcement agency or the crisis text line, right? And that's what that link is there. And then share. It's never okay to share or forward a sex that someone has sent you. Okay. So your actions can't be, that is not something that, none of these are ever okay. And adults, all kids, it doesn't just mean kids. I mean, I'm sure there are some of you that have adults that are there. So when I hate to say kids, because Cindy and I, the majority of the individuals we work with are adults. And so that doesn't make you, I mean, this covers everybody, not just kids. So. There's that question. What's the general rule or self-check to ask yourself before posting online? Would I be okay with this, with my grandmother seeing this post or seeing this picture? So.
Or my teacher, or my dad, or my mom. I mean, you can insert whoever in that spot there.
So, and I have a video here, and I wanted to share it. Friendships and boundaries. So if you will, I'm going to see if this is the one that we talked about.
There is a comment in the chat book, Kathy, while you're pulling that up. It says,
Okay.
any suggestions for parents to create a safe space for young adults to share? And I've heard some young adults don't feel comfortable for fear of punishment.
I'm not sure about a safe space, but a safe person. If they have a safe person, maybe an aunt or an uncle, a teacher.
And I think that if you have that, it's almost like the conversation that we had last week about healthy relationships and sexuality training. Is the more you talk about it, even though it's difficult, the more approachable you're going to be. So if they do approach you and you can tell them that you're not happy about it, but I know what, sometimes if somebody does something inappropriate online, and the first thing you want to do is say, fine, you can't go on the internet anymore. That's never going to happen again. But does that solve the problem? Grounding might be one thing, but then turn that into, well, what are we going to do to, make sure this doesn't happen again? What could you have done differently? It's almost like, taking a step back and deciding, what message do I want to send my young adult, my adult child, so that they think about this again. And I think it's just giving them the tools. And if you, and this is just, I feel like if you tell them never again, you can't do this, does that mean they are going to find somewhere else to do it? So instead, turn it into, how can we make this the right way to do things? So, and like Cindy said, sometimes that just might be finding somebody else to talk to them about it. I know, I went to a workshop once where the mother that was teaching the workshop said, my daughter does not come to me. She goes to my best friend. And she goes, I guess I should have felt hurt, but I thought, thank God, I know the person she's going to get the information from. So that's another thing that you can think about is, whether it be a trusted teacher, or sometimes it might be a provider, and you make sure that they're set up with a safe person to talk to, because the one thing you do want to make sure is that they have a safe place to do a fact check and make sure that they're okay as well. Does that answer your question? Reshare again. And this is actually, this particular one is about friendships and boundaries. And it's adapted. And once again, like I said, this is taken from a curriculum, but it's individuals that have.
Getting my first phone really changed my life a lot.
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop and share again.
Was on my phone talking to people.
I got back in contact with my older sister who was in the military. I got to keep in contact with my friends. They were excited because they got to hear from me.
I get to talk to him about anything sometimes, and we have very funny times. Like, we'll be really goofy and stuff like that. It's very fun.
I get very excited when people text me right away because I feel special sometimes.
If you're meeting somewhere and you don't know if they're there or not, you can text them and say, hey, are you coming? Or if they're a little late, you don't have to get worried.
If you're in trouble or in danger, you can call the emergency services and they can help you out.
I was in a car accident. I called my mom and I said, Mama, I was in a car accident and the car flipped. And she said, I'll be right there.
For my opinion, I think it's been more chaotic. Social media is, it's not the same as it used to be.
Sometimes I just don't want to talk. Like, people just are like, I can call you anytime now that you have a phone. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna turn my phone off to ignore you.
Like, when you communicate with the person a lot and the person get kind of tired of it, it can affect the friendship.
I don't want that person to be, talking to me when I'm trying to get stuff done, and I just swipe them and block them.
Sometimes I just pretend like I don't see it, and then if my friends say, oh, why didn't you reply back? I'll be like, oh, I was asleep.
If you don't have boundaries with your phone and with yourself, it could cause trouble and you could get in detention or get your phone taken away by the teacher. Guilty.
Say if I was focusing on my homework or, I don't know, I'm hanging out with my dad or something, I may want some alone time.
If it's just social media and there's nothing going on, then you don't need your phone just for every little second.
It's always good to have your space because you always focus on your thoughts, and it's just you heal yourself by just even talking to yourself, writing stuff down, listening to music.
I would just be honest when setting boundaries. Just be honest, say what you think, and if they don't like it, well, too bad.
You can put it down, even take a walk, be like, hey, Mom, Dad, you want to take a walk or something? Do activity with your family, and that's very important for me.
Okay. And so I don't know how much your young adults, kids are on their phones or social media, but it is good to teach them limits and setting time when they should put their phone away, because it is an addiction, and I think our kids are addicted. I mean, actually, what am I saying? I think there's a lot of adults that are addicted. They can't do anything unless their phone is with them all the time. So if we're moving on forward and they continue and they are online, I wanted to go over some other, and actually what I'm going to let Cindy talk about this one with when they're talking to people that they don't necessarily think that they know. So I'm going to let Cindy cover this one.
Right. Grooming online is considered when someone older uses chatting or messaging to befriend or manipulate a child or teenager for the purpose of sexual abuse or sexual trafficking. And we know this is just running rampant right now. Because they want to believe everything they see or they hear from someone online, and that's not always the truth. Catfishing is when the groomer pretends to be someone they're not in order to gain trust. And that's the definitions from a legal perspective. Catfishing also, I mean, I'm sure most of you maybe have heard of the TV show Catfish. Basically where people pretend to be someone else for some reason. Um, different scenarios would be one girl wants to get back at another girl, so she pretends to be a boy that likes her just to humiliate her. All kinds of things like that go on.
Another thing that using that catfishing as well, it has gotten people are excellent at going online and stealing people's their friends' identities. So if you take somebody who you're friends with online, and actually this happened to me recently, where one of my friends started messaging me via Facebook and saying, "Hey, how are you?" And kind of said that she'd been sick, and we were having this conversation. And then she asked me about some sort of uh, government give back money. Had I taken advantage of it? Because she had really gotten a lot back. And I thought, this is weird. That's a strange way to go into this. So I click her, I click her profile, and it definitely is my friend that I knew in El Paso, Texas. But it wasn't. So I did a little fact check, and it was not her. And I blocked her and reported it. But that's a biggie. They could literally take one of their friends, and if it's and as far as somebody grooming, they may not even know the person, but they are able to get in, look at somebody's friends, and if they're able to steal their identity, they can end up manipulating that way. And for you don't have to have a disability to fall into that trap, but that's another reason that they should not be giving information or agree to meet anybody online if they're not checking with you or you're not checking what they're doing. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that?
And they will and can get through, even if you have things set to private, even if you have things set, well, we'll take Facebook, for example, if you have it set friends only. All it takes is one person knowing this friend, and then they're in.
So what is an online predator? Along with that, and it's posing as a teen or a child in an effort to exploit or take advantage of a teen, child, or another person. And I will tell you that, if you have a disability, you have a better chance of falling into, because sometimes, and you just want friends so badly. So if they're and they're slick with it, and so that you have to go through those rules of, do not share your address, do not share your phone number, do not give them any financial information, don't any of that, and you have be very specific about what they can and can't tell somebody. That those are, with any of that information, they can move forward, and it's a slow process. The way these individuals work online, it's a slow process. So if you're just checking in and saying, well, who is that? How are you doing to protect yourself? It's just a matter of fact checking with them and checking in.
And we've got someone put in the chat that their boys use Discord for all video and board game talks. And it's everywhere. I'm not a gamer. I'm not super familiar. I know there's more than just Discord out there, but the premise is the same. They came in, we've been playing games. We've been playing this game together for 2 or 3 months. I'm John, I'm 12. And you just really have to be careful of things like that.
And Cindy and I have talked to some of the students that we work with, and when we talk about the friends, and some of them will say, yeah, I have friends online that I play games with. And, to clarify, is that a friend or is that somebody you don't know that you're just playing a game with? I mean, it's different if it is an actual friend that you know, but that we're telling them, you have no idea who that person is. No matter what they say or who they are, you have no idea.
They're
that person is.
online acquaintances.
Yes, they are not friends. So just remember to do that red flag feeling when something happens that makes you feel uncomfortable, worried, sad, or anxious. You need to step away, block them, stop, and go and get somebody. Go and talk to your parents. If you're not living with your parents, let the provider that's there, let somebody know that you trust. But if you get that funny feeling, you need to stop it and block the person and make sure that they know how to do that. So to protect yourself against predators, do not communicate with anyone on the computer if you do not know their true identity, and never give out personal identification. And that's your address, birth dates, passwords on the computer, ever. And then we'll talk about, there are some, and I have it at the end of this, at the end of the presentation, I'll just go over some of the resources, but you can also, a tool that can protect from harmful, inappropriate websites is putting a filter on your computer. And some of them cost money, so you would need to go through and look at that. And there are some resources that I've included on there that you can look into. So, a question here, can you reflect on or think back to a time when you may have posted something that created a problem for you or that you regretted after the post was sent? Please describe the event and consequences, and when did you learn from it? So, or back to that earlier question the other day, if that somebody put earlier, that's a way that you can have them think about how they can make it better. What are the consequences that went through there? What did they learn, and what are we going to do that's different with that? And these are the rules we're going to put in place because of that. And then I'm sure everybody understands a digital footprint, okay? And that's anything on social media, Skype calls, app, email records. It's all part of an online history that all of us need to be aware of. And even when you tell the place that you don't want to take cookies, there are cookies all over the place that maybe you didn't, that, that's what that cookies is. But if you don't allow cookies, a lot of times you can't get into some of the things that they're doing and that they're tracking you. So. How can a digital footprint tell others about you? Social media sites and all of your online activity leaves an electronic path. What you post and where you go online tells others about who you are.
Well, sure, you've only got to mention something before you start seeing all the ads for what you were talking about.
That's right. And once again, when you talk to them about their passwords, what do passwords and toothbrushes have in common? You don't share them and change them often. So make sure that if we had a video that we shared last week where there was a provider that was working with a young man, and he said, "Let me, I'll put it in for you." And he was an adult. He said, "No, I know my own password. I don't need to share it with you." If that is the case, then you tell them who they can safely share a password with, and it has to be someone that they trust. Want to go over these, Cindy?
I can't quite see them, Kathy.
Oh, you can't?
No.
Okay, let me.
Glasses on.
Okay. So the 10 recommendations for adults to protect the young people online, and this is from that Kid Power International. Limit screen time, both when and how much. Set boundaries about physical spaces for online activity so that you know what they're doing when. Teach young people that online communication gives a false illusion of privacy and connection. It isn't private. We, for some reason, think that it is, but it isn't. Teach kids to think first before posting or sharing anything online, since anything could become public. Teach kids the digital citizenship skills. Teach youth to check first with you before changing their plan about online activities. Be explicit about when young people must always get your permission. Teach kids what to do if they notice sexual, threatening, or violent words, behavior, images, or videos. And then teach young people to protect their hardware and their accounts from being hacked or compromised, and learn what your digital platforms, including the ones used in distance learning, do and do not offer, and what can help users be safe. And then I'm just going to go over some of these things that I got from, this is from the UK. The UK has a lot of wonderful resources. And this is from the nonprofit Cerebra, and it's called Play It Safe. You use the acronym Play It Safe, and it to teach individuals with ASD about internet safety. Personal information, don't share. The L, let trusted adult know and tell someone if someone asks for your personal information. A, attachments, beware before opening attachments. And that's a biggie, because it could literally, they can steal your information, they can lock your computer up. Why? Your feelings are important. If something happens that makes you uncomfortable, tell an adult right away. I, information, remember that not everything you see online is true. If you're unsure, ask a trusted adult. T, take breaks from the computer. Set a timer so that you're managing how long you're there. S, spending money. Don't buy things online without permission. A, act politely. Don't say anything online that you wouldn't say to someone in person. F, friends online should stay online. If someone asks you to meet, tell them no, and always let somebody know. And then E, enjoy yourself. Play safe and have fun. And that's because it shouldn't be, I mean, being online should be something that you enjoy. But it's something that you still have to be safe with as well. So unless you have any other questions or specific, I want to go ahead and share some of these resources. Oh, hold on just a minute, I apologize. And this, Patty's going to share later on these handouts here. Here is an online safety for teens and adults, and it has a ton of resources. Okay, are you able to see this, or do you still see my handout?
We see the handout.
Yeah, the handout.
This has some great information about a safety online guide for people with autism spectrum disorder. And it has some wonderful links. Here's the risk of bullying, because it is a real thing online. But there's a lot of great information. But the one thing is, when they talk about the risks, cyberbullying, there's a lot of links here that you can see. How to recognize online scams, talking about addiction, explicit content, but here it talks about the benefits of it. Okay, when they start with the risks, but like I said before, it's like the risks outweigh the rewards, but actually it's the opposite. There are many people in not only just in that are in the spectrum that build, it's a safe place for them to build friendships online and through, or through different organizations. And so you can there are a lot of benefits as long as you know and start teaching how to be safe. And so here's that Play It Safe on this article. Here's some tips for families to make online environment more secure. And then they have different ideas. I talked to you about the filters. Well, the filters are here as well. So that's one of the resources. Another great resource in here that I wanted to point out, and then I'll so they have I've made a new friend online booklet. And this is a visual. I made a new friend, but I'm worried. What do I do? And it goes through where you read this booklet with somebody, and it's just a guide. So that's what illegal means. So it kind of breaks it down with some visuals and things that can happen, and how does harm happen online. So I thought this was a great resource that's listed there that you can take a look at. And then another one with some really great videos with individuals. And this, I found this today, and I plan on us using it within you'll see these things teaching about online pornography, healthy online relationship films, digital well-being. Well, this is my life online conversation guide for parents and caregivers. So this is another it's ChildNet, and it has a conversation guide about talking about relationships with your individuals, with your kids. And it's there, they have a PDF online format, but there's also videos in here with this ChildNet that are fabulous, that actually have individuals talking about how they use the internet. And it's there for you to do it with your child. And there's also, if you notice, they have age ranges here as well. So it's a great, there's a lot there. There really is. So those resources will be available. If any of the links don't work, you can let me know. Unless you have any, does anybody have any comments or questions or input about anything, or something that we didn't cover that you were hoping we would?
For those that are on, I'll go ahead and stop the recording so we can just have an open discussion. So nobody's concerned about the recording side of it. But thank you, Kathy and Cindy, for the presentation. We put the link for tonight's presentation in the chat box. And then when I get the handout, we'll put it in there as well. So you'll be able to see those handouts, and you'll be able to, check them out at your convenience. But 1 second while I turn off the recording. 1 second.